There are announcements in NASCAR that generate polite applause. There are announcements that generate genuine excitement. And then there are announcements that split an entire community directly down the middle, igniting a debate that touches on everything from competitive integrity to the future of motorsport marketing, from safety standards to the evolving relationship between professional racing and the massive world of online content creation. On March 4th, 2026, Richard Childress Racing made one of those announcements, and the NASCAR world has not stopped talking about it since. Garrett Mitchell, known to millions of people across the internet as Cleetus McFarland, has officially signed a 2-year part-time contract with Richard Childress Racing to compete in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. His debut is scheduled for April 4th, 2026, at Rockingham Speedway, where he will pilot the number 33 Chevrolet with sponsorship from Tommy's Express Car Wash. A third entry for Richard Childress Racing in select races, with the possibility, if the program performs well enough, of expanding into a full NASCAR Xfinity Series opportunity as early as 2027. The announcement came from Welcome, North Carolina, the home of Richard Childress Racing, and it landed on the NASCAR community like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples outward in every direction. To understand why this story is generating the kind of reaction it is generating, you need to understand who both parties in this agreement actually are, because neither of them is a simple character in a simple story. Start with Richard Childress Racing. This is not just a NASCAR team. This is an institution, a piece of living motorsport history. Richard Childress built this organisation over decades, and for much of that time, the face of RCR was Dale Earnhardt, the most iconic driver in the history of stock car racing. 7 championships. A legacy that extends far beyond win totals and statistics into the emotional identity of the sport itself. RCR is the organisation that currently fields Kyle Busch, one of the most accomplished drivers of the modern era, and Austin Dillon, grandson of Richard Childress himself. This is a team with championship DNA, with a development program that has produced legitimate Cup Series talent, and with a reputation built on competitive excellence. Now meet Garrett Mitchell. Born and raised with a passion for cars, engines, and pushing machinery to its absolute limits, Mitchell built something remarkable through sheer force of personality, creativity, and an authentic love of motorsport. His YouTube channel, operating under the Cleetus McFarland brand, has accumulated more than 4.6 million subscribers. His content centers on drag racing, car builds, and events at the Freedom Factory, a racing venue he purchased in Florida that has become a destination for motorsport fans who might never have otherwise set foot inside a racing facility. He has competed in the SRX series, made ARCA starts, and consistently pushed toward legitimate racing opportunities while maintaining the content creation empire that made him famous. He is not a man pretending to be a racer. He is a man who genuinely loves racing and has spent years building toward exactly this kind of opportunity. The idea for this partnership reportedly came from Ty Dillon, and it took approximately a year of discussions before the pieces came together to make it official. That timeline matters because it tells you that this was not an impulsive decision made for marketing reasons alone. There were deliberate conversations, evaluations of Mitchell's capabilities, assessments of what the partnership could mean for both parties, and ultimately a mutual decision that this was worth pursuing. Richard Childress himself confirmed the deal in an official statement, welcoming Mitchell into what the organisation describes as a championship-winning development program. Mitchell, for his part, celebrated the announcement on his social media platforms with the kind of unfiltered enthusiasm that has always characterised his public presence, describing the opportunity as a dream come true and expressing genuine gratitude for the chance to learn under Richard Childress's leadership. But here is where the story becomes complicated, because NASCAR's approval of this deal was not without conditions, and the conditions exist for reasons that critics of the partnership have been quick to point out. Mitchell was involved in a crash during a Daytona race and encountered another incident during testing, and these incidents gave NASCAR officials reason to pause before granting their blessing to put him in a race car at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series level. The approval came, but it came with conditions attached, a fact that the more skeptical voices in the racing community have seized upon as evidence that there are legitimate questions about readiness that have not been fully answered. Kevin Harvick, the former Cup Series champion, who has become one of the most candid, and thoughtful voices in NASCAR media, through his podcast, expressed genuine surprise when discussing the news. Harvick's reaction was not one of outrage, but of honest uncertainty about what this means for the competitive standards of the series, and about whether the approval process adequately addressed the safety concerns raised by Mitchell's incident history. When a driver of Harvick's experience and credibility expresses that kind of measured skepticism, it carries weight in the garage and in the broader NASCAR conversation. Freddie Kraft, whose understanding of NASCAR operations comes from years of working inside the sport, questioned the approval process more directly, specifically referencing the Daytona crash as a data point that, in his view, should have prompted harder questions from NASCAR before a conditional green light was issued. And Jeff Gluck, one of the most respected journalists covering the sport, offered perhaps the most pointed and practical warning of all. Gluck noted that if Mitchell is involved in on-track accidents that affect other drivers, those drivers will not be shy about expressing their frustration, and that the backlash from within the racing community could be significant and uncomfortable for everyone involved. These are not small concerns. Stock car racing at the series level is genuinely dangerous. The cars are fast, the tracks are unforgiving, and the margins for error are razor thin. Every driver on that track has invested years of their life developing the skills to compete safely at that level, and they have a reasonable expectation that every other driver sharing that track with them has done the same. When someone enters that environment through a pathway that differs fundamentally from the traditional development ladder, it raises questions that go beyond competitive fairness into the territory of physical safety. And yet the other side of this argument is equally compelling and equally sincere. Cleetus McFarland's audience is enormous, passionate, and largely young. These are exactly the kinds of fans that NASCAR has been working, with significant investment and considerable urgency, to attract and retain. The sport has watched its traditional fan base age and has watched younger generations drift toward different forms of entertainment. An authentic connection to a figure like Mitchell, someone who bridges the gap between internet culture and motorsport culture in a way that feels genuine rather than manufactured, represents exactly the kind of marketing opportunity that money cannot simply buy. If Mitchell's presence in an RCR car brings even a fraction of his 4.6 million subscribers into regular NASCAR viewership, that is an outcome that benefits the sport in ways that extend far beyond the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. The fan reaction to this announcement has reflected that division with remarkable clarity. Mitchell's own audience is thrilled, viewing this as validation of their hero's talent and a doorway into NASCAR fandom for people who might never have found their way there otherwise. Traditional NASCAR fans are more divided. Some see the potential for a genuinely entertaining storyline and appreciate the marketing value. Others worry about what it signals for the competitive standards of NASCAR's developmental series and whether this opens a door that, once open, cannot easily be closed. The concern, stated plainly, is this: if a YouTuber can get a 2-year contract with a historic NASCAR organization based primarily on his online following, what does that say about the pathway for young drivers who have spent their entire lives grinding through the traditional development ladder? That question does not have a clean answer, and anyone who tells you it does is oversimplifying a genuinely complex situation. The reality is that professional motorsport has always existed at the intersection of sporting merit and commercial necessity. Sponsorship has always mattered. Marketability has always been a factor in who gets opportunities and who does not. What has changed in the digital era is the scale and the directness of the connection between an individual's audience and their commercial value. Cleetus McFarland does not need a sponsor to validate his marketability. He is the marketing vehicle. And for Richard Childress Racing, an organisation that needs to remain relevant and financially sustainable in an increasingly competitive landscape, that is a genuinely valuable asset. The April 4th debut at Rockingham Speedway will tell us something. It will not tell us everything, because one race is one data point, but it will begin the process of moving this story from the realm of debate into the realm of observable reality. What happens on that track, how Mitchell performs, how he handles adversity, how he interacts with experienced competitors, and how his audience responds to seeing him compete at this level will shape everything that follows. A strong run builds momentum toward that 2027 Xfinity opportunity. A difficult day amplifies every concern that critics have already raised. Richard Childress Racing has taken a calculated risk on a bet with enormous potential upside and real, documented downside. Whether the gamble pays off will depend on the man behind the wheel of the number 33 Chevrolet on a Saturday afternoon in April. NASCAR is watching. The racing community is watching. And more than 4 million subscribers are watching too.